To welcome you to Ring It with a Coach on Monday. And I hope y'all had as good an Easter holiday as we did. I know that Jordan and me were discussing this earlier today. He had a real good weekend, got to hang out with friends and family, that type of thing. And I did the same. And I watched my daughter catch a crappie over 2 pounds. And I did it first, Jordan. I've never been a turkey hunter in my life. But I went turkey hunting with a friend of mine this weekend. I killed me a big gobbler with a 9-inch beard, and I was kind of excited about that. But, back to fishing now. Fishing is what we need to talk about. Spring's starting to happen, so we're going to talk about some things today dealing with the spring. But before we get to that, questions from last week we had left over we might want to hit on.
Sure, let me see. I have a couple here. The first from R. Perez Jr.
All right, R. Perez, what did you have in mind?
What trailer do you use on a black and blue chatterbait?
I like to match my trailer usually with the color of chatterbait that I'm using. I'll use either a black and blue or I'll use like a sapphire blue type trailer. Sometimes they like the dark trailer of that black and blue, and sometimes they like the lighter blue up under the more shiny blue. And then another option you might could go to is I have a couple of buddies who always throw white. You could try a white trailer under that. Sometimes that works real good, but definitely usually go with the black and blue on the black and blue of some variety.
Okay. Let's see. How about Sportsman Mania? For those who are new to big bite baits, which ones should I try first?
Oh, I'd try the fighting frog first, no doubt, and then maybe go, depending on what type of bait you're throwing, if you're throwing like a moving bait to swim on, or if you're, the kamikaze craw's been real popular here lately, or if you want to throw like a shad type bait, I'd recommend the suicide shad. And then if you just want to use a bait that you can throw around and enjoy, a trick stick you can't go wrong with. So those are some of the things that I would definitely try right out of the gate. I think you'll get bites on all of those for sure.
Okay.
Real quickly, I got a little advertisement today. I want to remind everybody we've got this new Sun hoodie that's got the hood on it. It's about a real, I don't know how you explain. I'm gonna call it silky soft material. I know it's the hottest selling item we have right now in our clothing. We're selling them by the truckloads, and if you hadn't gotten one, you might want to try it. It's a less expensive option than some of our competitors. It's UV proof, comes in 3 colors: the mint, the aqua, and the blue mist. So definitely, they run, I think, $35.99. You can buy them over the website, but I would highly recommend when they feel really good. And of course, that's an option to keep you covered up during the hot sun. And unfortunately, that hot sun's on the way. Summer's not far around the corner, definitely. So we're into the spring, Jordan, and most, like in our lake here, most lakes, the spawn is beginning to come to a close. So next thing happens is the shad begin to spawn. And I know here where we fish at, when the shad begin to spawn, the fish like a lot of different moving type baits, and you target those spawning shad. One of the ways that I like to target those particular fish and those shad spawns is on a swim jig. So I thought today we would just kind of talk about some different ways that swim jigs could be rigged with our baits and talk about some of the rigs that we thought might go good. I know that here on our lake, and as well as several of the local lakes around us, talking to some of the guys in North Alabama and over in Georgia, they're beginning to catch fish on swim jigs per regular around grass. And then, of course, obviously when the shad begin to spawn, that's going to be a good time to catch them. So we're going to talk a little bit about this today. So I'm just going to kind of run through some things I think would be good on the back of one. All right, so the first swim jig option I had was a black and blue, and I opted to put a fighting frog on it. But I took a little tip that we got, but that was from Mike McClellan last year, where he turned it upwards flat on the bait.
Drew Cook.
Oh, it was Drew Cook, excuse me, okay? And he rigged it a little bit differently. Now, you can do it either way. You can turn it flat or you can turn it up and down. But that's one bait that I highly recommend that you can try on a swim jig is the 4-inch fighting frog. Works real well, okay? All right. The second thing today, and the most obvious thing, one of the things we built this bait for was to go behind the swim jig, the kamikaze craw. I know the gentleman that designed this bait, this is one of the ways he likes to fish it. It sets up really nice on a swim jig. It's kind of a smaller profile, and these big flappers on it, they really, I'm going to use the word undulate under the water or kick. They really have lots of action. So if you want something that's got a lot of action to it, and this is one I'd recommend. If you want to shorten it up, you can pinch it off a little bit and slide it on up on your bait. But that's the kamikaze craw. Comes in 15 colors, so you can match it to just about any type of swim jig out there. I highly recommend this on the back of a swim jig. It works really well. Okay? And then for the guys that are traditionalists, one of the things that a lot of the elite guys are using and they both on the MLF and the Bass Series, is they use a swimmer behind their swim jig. In this particular case, I've got a chartreuse swim jig here, and a chartreuse and white actually. And on the back of it, I've got a pro swimmer in Pearl Shiner. This particular is this the 3.8, I believe? Works really well behind it. It's perfectly suited, and it has lots of good kicking action, and that's a good way to try to catch them on a swim jig as well. So that's a pro swimmer. It works really well, okay? That's for you traditionals type guys. And then a couple of our older baits that I think work real well on a swim jig. One of them is the swimming craw, the old school swimming craw. It's very compact, much like the kamikaze craw, and it works real well. This is a white on white, and it works really well on the back of a swim jig, as well as if you want to use that deep on the back of a football jig, you can too. But it has a really neat, good profile. It's not going to kick quite as much as the kamikaze craw, but it's going to give you just a good subtle kick. Works really well. So it's a little different action. So, if they don't want something that's really active and they want something that's a little more subdued, you can go this and try this. And I think you'll find it'll get you some bites as well. So that's another way to rig it. Then I just come up with an idea. Do something totally off the wall. I think we did this once before on our show back last year, year before, but I wanted to throw this at you. Have you ever thought about taking a tour toad and putting it on a swim jig? Now, right here, I've got it rigged up with a spring craw, and I've got a watermelon red ghost tour toad on there. As you can see there, I got the whole toad rigged up on there, and obviously it's going to kick. And if you tear those legs open, it's going to really put up some noise. So, and you can actually kind of buzz it on top if you wanted to, but you can also let it fall in the water column, and it'll give you a real nice subtle kick. Something to think about. Another thing that I kind of liked about it is it's pretty meaty, so it's not going to tear up very bad. You can probably catch 10 or 12 fish on it before you have to replace it. Or some of the craws, they pull the pinchers off, that type of thing, and it's gone pretty quick. This particular bait will probably hold up and do real well. Just something, a little food for thought. I thought I might share with you. It'd be a little bit something different. So that's another way that you can rig a swim jig. Other things that we didn't bring today that we have in our line that you could possibly use on a swim jig, I think that might work real well. I have two things that comes to mind. Number one's a swim on, like we use on a chatterbait, and it's going to be real subtle, I can tell you. It's not going to have a lot of action at all. Or you could use a Yo Daddy. A Yo Daddy it's a little more compact, but it has real good flapping action. Those are both things that we could probably put on there and do a pretty good job with as well. But as a whole, I thought this was the better stuff that we had to offer, and something that you might want to try on your swim jig. We got any questions today, Jordan? Anybody talking to us out there?
Yeah,
some of our regulars.
I got a question from the other day from Jeff Sarah.
All right, Jeff.
Now this is an interesting one. What is more important to base your bait on? Time of year, weather, or water conditions?
Boy, that's a real good question there. That was kind of tough. Now, if I had to pick one of those three, I'm probably going to say probably weather conditions. Of course, the color of the water is real important too, but I'd say weather conditions. Whether it's going to be warm, whether you're going to be after a cold front, depending on how the wind's blowing that day, that type of thing. So if I had to guess one, that'd probably be the one I would use first, is what my weather conditions are. And it may be just so bad you want to stay at the house. But definitely I think that's the one I would take first. I would probably take watercolor next, because you got to get the right color bait in that water to make them bite it, That would be the stratus I'd use them in for sure. All right, anything else we got today?
Yeah, Colton Smith. What type of lures are best to use during the summer?
Well, Colton, usually during the summer the fish move deep for me. I'm a deep water guy, so I'm not going to be able to tell you. I wouldn't tell you a whole lot about how to fish for them shallow in the summer, except for early. I'd use a topwater bait of some variety, either buzz bait or frog or something like that. But as those fish move out on the water column and get deeper, I like to throw like a big Magnum shaky head worm, our 8-inch finesse worm, or like a half-ounce shaky head jig, big heavyweight. I also like to throw a big, like a 10-inch worm, a Magnum worm, or like a 3/8 ounce lead. Get it out deep, working in those deep spots, but some type of slow profile. I've really done well on that finesse worm the last 2 or 3 years. It's been really something new that we kind of gone to, and it works really well. So that's kind of how I would target them. Then, of course, obviously when I got out there deep, I'd do some other things too, but those would be the things that I would probably grab her off the deck of my boat first.
Okay, I'll give you one more and then I'll
All
let
right,
you go.
good.
Forgotten Coast Fishing. What is the best big bite bait for bedding bass?
Oh, the warmouth, no doubt. Designed by Dean Rojas to catch them off the bed. It's a hand-painted bait. You can fish it with a very light lead, and you can throw it in the bed, and it just drives them crazy. You can kind of go through the colors and find the color that works best for you. I will tell you that the green bluegill and the war party are the top 2 selling colors in it. So if you've got any questions in your mind, that would be where I would start. A lot of the guys also like the chartreuse bluegill. But something along those lines. That thing just, you can throw it in the bed and it'll sit there and quiver, and everybody that uses that tells me it just drives them wild and they have to bite it. So that's probably the bait I would recommend right out of the gate from our line would be the warmouth. And then obviously there's some other things you could use. I mean, I know guys that throw like a white fighting frog or a white lizard. And the reason they use white is that way they can see the bait on the bed and kind of see when the fish gobbles it up. So that would be some things that I would look at and talk, probably pick on for sure, definitely. All right, other than that, I don't have anything else today. We've enjoyed it. We'll see y'all back here next Monday at the same time, same place.